In the final 8 minutes of Julius Caesar's life, the city of Rome itself seemed to hold its breath. The dictator strode toward the Senate as rays of the late morning sun sliced through dusty air. To him, it might have felt like any other morning, but destiny had assembled a deadly ambush. Friends and foes alike sat waiting in the Curia of Pompey. Nobody in the hall knew that his name would soon be cursed in blood. For months, the air in Rome had been thick with unease. The once proud republic hung by a thread as Caesar's power grew unchecked. Now he was dictator for life, his face on coins, statues of him in temples. Even during the recent Lupercalia festival, his friend Mark Antony had placed a kingly crown on Caesar's head. Not once but twice, only for Caesar to set it aside. The crowd's silence at that spectacle was a warning. Men whispered on street corners, had Caesar truly been asking to be king? At every tavern and market, people demanded action. Something had to be done. In secret, Romans began comparing Caesar to tyrant kings of old. They even carved mocking verses on statues, praying for the spirit of Brutus to return and slay another king. Among those who acted on such fears were men who had once loved and admired Caesar. Marcus Junius. Brutus was one of Rome's noblest bloods, an esteemed general and senator whom Caesar had long treated like a son. Still, Brutus felt his duty to the Republic heavier than any personal loyalty. Descended from Rome's first liberator, he saw his mentor's towering power as an affront to freedom. Gaius Cassius Longinus, married into Caesar's family and a seasoned general himself, watched Caesar's triumphs with envy. Cassius had fought by Caesar's side in Gaul in the Civil War, yet he resented Caesar's growing arrogance and the favor Caesar's glory bestowed on others. Together, Cassius and Brutus convinced many senators that only Caesar's death could save the Republic. Bound by a sacred oath, they planned in secret. If Caesar ever became king, they would kill him to defend Rome. By nightfall, more than 60 men had pledged their lives to the cause, even calling themselves liberators of the Republic, though history would remember them as traitors. Omens and nightmares had crept into Caesar's life like harbingers of doom. Ancient soothsayers warned him, "Beware the Ides of March," they said. His wife Calpurnia dreamed of statues falling and rivers of blood in her bed. The sacred geese of Juno's temple refused to eat that morning. Still, Caesar dismissed these portents with an amused smile. On the morning of March 15th, a Servian slave pressed a scrawled note into his hand. It read only, "Watch out." Caesar tucked it into his toga with a shrug. Nothing would stop him now. By midday, the Curia of Pompey was packed under its frescoed ceiling. The Senate had met here ever since their old hall burned. Now, as Caesar strode in, his toga of gold thread shining in the torchlight, he embodied everything Rome both loved and feared. Senators rose as he approached the front bench. To his right was Cassius, eyes cold and distant. To his left sat Decimus Brutus, blinking at the light, a man Caesar trusted like a son. Even Decimus carried a dagger at his side, though Caesar did not know it yet. Caesar forced a genial smile and raised his chin, but his stomach twisted in unease. Every whisper behind the marble columns, every flicker of a toga's movement made his heart pound with suspicion. Without warning, Publius Cimber sprang forward from the crowd, yanking Caesar's toga at both shoulders. The dictator spun around in shock. In that heartbeat, the chamber froze. Every other sound was gone, only the pounding of Caesar's heart in his ears. Caesar stared up at Cimber and then behind him, at a ring of tight-faced senators with glittering blades. Gaius Casca was lunging dagger first. Before Caesar could react, the blade bit into his right shoulder. A white toga blossomed scarlet in an instant. Caesar gasped and clutched at the wound, but there was no time to cry out. With a roar, Caesar lunged at Casca, grabbing the senator's arm. He plunged his own ivory stylus into Casca's hand. Steel and wood collided with a hiss of agony. Casca howled and stumbled back, dropping his dagger, but it was too late. From behind, another blade found its mark, a cruel slice through Caesar's lower ribs. The sound of tearing flesh and cracking bone echoed through the hall. Warm blood surged down Caesar's side as he staggered to his knees. He tasted iron on his tongue and felt dizzy waves of pain. Around him, Rome's greatest men had become executioners. One by one, they struck. A dagger ripped a gaping wound in his abdomen. Another plunged into his left thigh. A third shattered his left wrist with a sickening crack, and his hand went limp. Caesar's fingers fell away. He struggled to stay upright, but his strength was bleeding out. He could smell the coppery blood and burned incense mixing in the air. For a moment, his vision blurred, then cleared to reveal the blood-stained steps before him. Then Caesar saw Brutus standing at the center of that circle, dagger poised. Time slowed. The two locked eyes, betrayed on one side, anguished on the other. Brutus hesitated, as if pained to act, but only for a heartbeat. Caesar's blood dripped onto the marble between them. Then Brutus's arm descended. The dagger's tip drove deep into Caesar's chest. Warm pain blossomed beneath his breastbone. The dictator sagged. His knees finally gave way. Even now, he could hardly believe one of his oldest friends had joined in. In that instant, Caesar felt like a lamb among wolves. He opened his mouth, but only a muted groan escaped, a quiet acceptance of his fate. With trembling fingers, Caesar pulled his toga back up over his head. He bowed his torso to the ground, lowering the hem around his waist to cover himself. He would not present his naked belly on the Senate floor. His knees hit the steps as he knelt, white marble cracked with spreading crimson. Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul and master of Rome, lay still on those stately steps. He had no energy left to speak or fight. Slowly, the great dictator slid the rest of the way down, back against cold stone until he collapsed fully onto the steps. For a few hushed moments, the Senate sat in stunned silence. The dagger-wielding senators slipped away quietly, as if the floors themselves had swallowed them. Only Caesar's ragged breathing and the distant murmur of panic below broke the silence. In the Temple of Pompey, the statue of Caesar's old rival and mentor stood ominously beside the body. White marble was drenched in red. Caesar's arms lay limp at his sides, one hand still clutching the blood-soaked cloth of his toga. Outside, Rome exploded in chaos. Word of Caesar's murder raced like wildfire through the streets. At dawn, priests threw incense into the sky, trying to appease angry gods. People poured into the forum, weeping and shouting. Caesar's veteran guards appeared in the streets, mourning the man they had once sworn loyalty to. Flames rose from burning torches and bonfires as the city howled for justice. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal friend and co-consul, raced back to the city when he heard the news. Standing before the Senate the next day, he held Caesar's purple toga aloft and pointed out all 23 stab wounds. The crowd erupted. Mothers wept openly, soldiers broke ranks. A mob formed, screaming for vengeance. Some even set fire to the Senate building itself in rage, crying, "Justice for Caesar." In that fury, the killers found no glory. Caesar's body was then carried through the forum in a somber procession. His loyal soldiers and mourners covered him in flowers. Mark Antony walked beside the bier, grief and anger in his eyes. When the funeral pyre was lit before Caesar's temple, the entire city watched with a mix of horror and sorrow. On the great flames danced the faces of an empire lost. Meanwhile, Caesar's allies acted swiftly to seize power. Antony aligned with the young Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, to form the second triumvirate. Together, they hunted the conspirators. 2 years later, at the battles of Philippi, Antony and Octavian cornered Brutus and Cassius. Rather than be paraded through Rome, each took his own life. In their quest to save the Republic, the assassins had instead unleashed civil war. By the end, Octavian would emerge as Augustus, Rome's first emperor, and the Republic the conspirators fought to restore was effectively gone. The Romans took Caesar's death as a sign that he had ascended to the gods. Days later, a brilliant comet blazed across the sky, and many whispered it was Caesar's soul rising. The Senate posthumously deified him as Divus Julius, the divine Julius. Temples and festivals honored him. His statues remained standing in the Forum, untouched by all who feared even his image. In every temple and home, offerings were made for the soul of Rome's great hero. Instead of being forgotten, Julius Caesar's name became immortal in marble and story. His final moments remain a haunting lesson. Even men crowned by destiny can bleed. Caesar's ambition had built an empire, but his death built the very world we live in today. Each Ides of March, we remember him, not just as a ruler, but as a man caught between fate and choice. Would you have had the courage to oppose those knives for the sake of freedom, or would terror have silenced you? In the end, only you can answer that. Thank you for watching. How does the story of Julius Caesar's final moments make you feel? Let me know in the comments below. If you thought this was horrifying, wait until next time. We will tell the gruesome tale of the man whose intestines were pulled from his body while he still lived.